Okay. All right, welcome to the Legislative Rules and Government Operations Committee meeting. Today is October 29th, 2024. Here, and who's that? Oh, Bill's here. So let's do the Board of Elections after we do the minutes. Approval of the October 3rd minutes of our prior committee meeting, moved by Supervisor Conover, second by Supervisor Wild. Any discussion? Seeing none, having none, a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Privilege of the floor, anybody from the nine from the what, Mike? Oh. Seeing none, let's move to the Board of Election. So we have just OT budget shift. Bill, you wanna?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Board. We, as you know, we've got the two new positions and our first shot at punching a time clock in and out and everything else. And this year alone is, we knew it was going to be very hectic, a lot more hectic than we ever thought it was going to be. We brought in two young adults. We call them our kids, but I got to tell you that we were very lucky. They're hardworking, and I'm sorry, I have to apologize for Beth. She's overrunning the office right now. That's why I'm here alone. Right? But they've been fantastic. But they're even at the point where they have worked to the end of their comp time. They can no longer accrue any more comp time, and we need them. We just can't do it without them. For instance, since September of this year, we've registered 1,050 new registrations. We've issued 4,512 absentees. We've got 3,156 back. Over the counter ballots, people for absentee or early vote by mail, we've issued 742. And so far this year, since Saturday, we've had 4,593 early voters that have come into our early voting locations. It's just been a zoo. Been going very well. Had a little glitch on Saturday morning, but it was cured and taken care of within an hour and a half, 2 hours. And there were no disenfranchised voters. Anyone that wanted to vote, that was in line to vote, had the ability to vote, and they did so. So what we're asking for is to build a overtime budget for the two new young employees. We're asking at this time just to put $2,000 into that overtime budget so that we can keep them working. We'll talk more about it later on the budget process, but we have the money in our account. We don't need any additional money. We just need to build this overtime budget code for our budget.
Okay, a motion to get that on the floor for further discussion. Made by Supervisor Barachi, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any further discussion, questions for Commissioner Venice? Hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of giving money to pay for the election specialist overtime, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Passes unanimously. All right.
Back to work. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Good work, Billy. Take care. Thanks.
I don't see the county clerk here. We'll cover. Oh, okay. Let's do the county clerk. Administrator Taplin will cover. So, we request is seeking home rule request to amend tax law section 261 1G to delete Warren County from the requirement to pay the tax to the community college, as we are already paying. You mean paying the tax to the CDTA? Okay. So in the rationale is below, but Administrator Taplin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Initially, when we established, as you know, we collect 1% mortgage tax and a 0.25% additional mortgage recording tax. And when we initially passed that to collect the 0.25%. Initially, it appears that we may have thought we were going to give that to ACC. However, that was never done. And so we're rescinding that so that, because we now give that to CDTA as passed last year. Anything?
If I can clarify, when the additional mortgage tax was approved years ago, the purpose for the approval was to fund Adirondack Community College, and it was a authorization given to Washington County and Warren County. The county has paid an amount equal to that collected tax every year that it was collected. I believe we've exceeded that amount over the years. I'm reminded that some people in the back cannot hear me. When the state legislature amended the public authorities law to permit Warren County to become a member of CDTA, that required the county to begin paying that 1.25% mortgage tax directly to CDTA. So right now, there's a hiccup in the statute because there's the older authorization for the county to pay that money to Adirondack Community College, but we're now paying that money to the CDTA. So this home rule request is really to clean up the statute to remove Warren County from the authorization to pay that money to Adirondack Community College or Community College, which I stumbled upon when working on some of the other recent issues regarding mortgage taxes and collecting expenses for mortgage tax. So it's, I don't want to call it administrative, but what we're doing is we're cleaning it up so that it's clear that we are paying this additional mortgage tax, as it's called, to the CDTA.
Questions? Motion to
I'll bring a
approve.
motion, of
Okay.
course.
Supervisor Wild brings the motion to the floor, seconded by Supervisor Mayday.
Just for total clarification, there's no impact to the SUNY's budget because we were already paying this.
Any other thoughts, questions? Put it to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Next action item is seeking a home rule request for an extension to the law authorizing Warren County to impose an additional mortgage recording tax. Additional? No. So
That's
just
That's the name of this particular tax, if I may. It's called the additional mortgage tax. And it's a great name because it makes it so confusing every time you talk about it. It's not an addition, it's not in addition to, it's just the name of the 1.25%, which we just discussed. The state legislature used to approve or extend the authority of counties for 3 years by statute. They changed that. My first time going through this process of home rule request for this purpose to 2 years. As the prior authorization ends in early December of 2025, we need to now move forward with the home rule request so that in January, our legislators can begin the process of seeking the extension prior to it expiring in December of 2025. So basically, 1 year on a 2-year cycle, 1 year the legislature is going to spend extending it, and we're going to go through the process of approving and extending it. And then the following year, we're going to request that they extend it again next year. So the 2-year cycle means that this is something that we're going to be in basically every other year.
okay. Any thoughts or questions before we? All right, how about a motion to, let me see, continue the mortgage recording tax? How's that? I like that better. But in any event, as it's stated here, because of maybe legal reasons, is there a motion to bring this to the floor? Motion made by Supervisor Mayday, seconded by Supervisor Driscoll. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Next, I've got two policies, I don't see Julie. But the purchasing policy is pretty clear, I mean. You know, it is what it is. Any questions on the purchasing policy? Yeah,
You have any idea what the revisions were?
well, that's why I was hoping Julie was here. I do see some of the text bolded, and I'm not sure those are the changes. In the FOIL policy, everything's underlined. So I can't give you an answer to that, and Julie's not here. Anybody else?
We did not include a red line version.
No. Do you want to hold this up on this?
Yeah, I was gonna, it's something we could hold till, November.
Can we do that? Is it,
There's
time
no
sensitive?
board meeting for December. correct?
Oh,
No, there is a board meeting in December.
yes.
That's the meeting we need to get in after the November board meeting.
Okay, so table this until we get the red line version?
Do you want me to call Julie and have her come over while you're eating the legislative?
Yeah, would you? Sure. Man, get this done and out of the way. Yeah, thank you, Amanda. All right, well, let's go on to FOIL policy, and that is delineated clearly what is being offered to amend it and bring it up to standards with New York State, and I don't know if the Administrator Kaplan or County Council Wellman would like to address this any further.
Sure, we became aware in September, the legislature passed some amendments to the Freedom of Information Law. As it's stated in the rationale on the agenda, there's a new requirement that public employees receive a notification in the event that their disciplinary records are being requested and produced to an individual filing a request for the records. So the amendments that you'll see are primarily addressing that requirement that is now on the county. And you will also see one additional change on page 4, section 5.1, which was the removal of the website reference from the policy, because the county will be moving to a new platform very soon. And requests will be submitted through that new database platform. I believe it's called Next Request. I'm just checking to see if there's anything else. Then on page 8, section 7, some of the language regarding payment of fees was clarified. Provide a clearer process for individuals who are paying a fee for their FOIL request. There had been some confusion as to whom money should be paid to. And that's a new paragraph 7 and a new paragraph 8 on page 8 of the red line book.
Okay, thoughts or questions from the Cap Committee?
Thank you, Chairman. I was just surprised that this wasn't already in the the FOIL legislation. I was just kind of surprised that, 2024, we're just getting to notification of the employee and all that type of stuff. But that's, I guess,
It's very limited. It only has to do with disciplinary records.
right, yeah, this one,
And
yeah,
until recently, disciplinary records were an exclusion under FOIL. that had been revoked, I
Yeah.
wanna say like maybe 3, 4 years ago. I don't wanna be wrong on the date. But it's been a more recent change. And this now is a counterbalance so that those employees whose disciplinary records are being requested, let's get notice and a copy of what's being disclosed.
Here we talk about transparency all the time, and you know, it just makes sense that this is in there. Don't hide anything from the public. They're paying our salaries.
Okay. Motion, Supervisor Karachi, second. Supervisor Wild. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the FOIA policy as presented and amended today, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Oh, it passes. Okay, now. Purchasing policy, we'll see if Julie can make it over again. Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, there is a referral and pending item about the rejecting of National Grid's proposed rate increases. And I just wanted, if you don't mind, I'd like to update
No,
the committee a little
please
bit.
do. Yeah, I'm sorry, I
Obviously,
skipped that.
it's quite all right.
Not on purpose.
I did open my mouth and talked about some of the issues that I had with this. And as I was moving forward with this, Jim Siplot and I at EDC talked about how we could increase the effect of Warren County's resolution and our decision about whether we want to support it or not. So I asked Jim, and he agreed to do this, is to pull together the business community, and he's actually pulling together Saratoga County and Washington County to have a joint resolution, or at least a comment to the Public Service Commission to say that we're not in favor of that, and to have the business communities really kind of take the lead from us. So I'm going to keep an eye on in terms of when the Public Service Committee is going to meet on this, and I'll make sure that we're prepared before that. So I just wanted to really
Okay, thank you, Mike. Supervisor Wild. Yes,
I
Supervisor.
just had maybe a question for Supervisor Wild. Is it kind of the desire of all three counties that it's everything or nothing, or do you think that there's going to be any type of a compromise negotiations during the process?
I'm not sure. You know,
Okay.
we haven't had those discussions
Yeah.
yet, but the idea was to pull it together at the different counties.
Okay.
See what we can do. Obviously,
Thanks.
they were mentioning, and the reason it's still here, just to remind everyone, 25% of the increase, or there will be a 25%, it's proposed, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's proposed 25% increase to any industrial and commercial company.
Right.
Can't afford to lose
No, I
lose
agree.
these organizations. So that was my big push.
Yeah, well. I could see your point. But I also know that the infrastructure needs to be upgraded. There's serious needs for that. Especially given the, dramatic climate events we're having. And, part of this includes, according to the folks at National Grid who are here, was saying upgrades, especially in northern Warren County. Having lines bypassed, so if they lose power, they can bring it through another way and so forth. I think that's needed, and somebody has to pay for that. But do we put the burden on our businesses and industries? It's a good question.
And I think just one other comment, one of the bigger concerns is the timing of this. And it was really defined by the legislature in Albany. That it has to be done at a certain time, and I don't recall exactly when that was. But that's creating the big push to get it done right away, which would in fact create this big increase. And if there does need to be an increase like that, it would be better off spreading it over time.
Yeah.
Than having it, an immediate hit on the organizations that we're concerned about.
Yeah.
So
Another good point.
there's many good points that we'll hear about more going in the future, and I'll make sure that the committee knows about this when the session begins. So hopefully it'll happen soon.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, Supervisor Conover?
I just would mention that, our, cost of energy, contract, we have 3-year contract, with just over 5 cents a kilowatt hour, went over 8. A 2-year contract. I'm sure Queensbury and the other people that use Mega, experience the same thing. But the, cost has gone way up, and, you know, what the future holds, but we went, effectively, we went from, in 1 year, we went from over 5 cents a kilowatt hour to over 8. That's a big increase. That's a big, and that would apply to any energy user. On the open market, it would have been even more. On the open market, it would have been even more, so. I don't know what Queensbury's experience was.
Yeah, we just did a 2-year contract at 7.6. Not like using kilowatt, but they use megawatt, and that'd be $76 a megawatt.
What was your previous contract, recall?
Yeah, it was with Constellation. Is that was your question?
Yeah, what, you remember how much it was,
Yeah, well, we have two kinds, one for our water department, and then one for the rest of the town. And ours was 7.6%. You know, if you wanna do, you know, kilowatt. But the water department, which is the big user, has the advantage of using its energy at night. For example, filling all the water tanks in town. We'll do that at night when the energy rates are lower. So we did a hybrid situation where we bought a certain amount of electricity at bulk. And the rest will be variable. And we can take advantage of the variable by filling the tanks up and using our big, and pumps use a lot of energy. And doing that at night. So they end up with something a little bit better than the town can end up. But the town itself, I mean, we're an 8 to 5 organization basically, and that's when the high rates, and at nighttime, we don't have the option of trying to, you know, delay our energy usage tonight, so. Anyhow,
was your previous contract is 7.6, was it, 4 or 5 cents? You recall?
was it 4 or 5 cents more expensive?
What was the rate? And
Yeah, 7.6, if you,
that's the new rate.
kilowatt hour,
That's the new rate.
that's the new rate.
What was the old rate?
It was 5.5 or something around there. Yeah, so it's gone up. And to Mike's thought process, I mean, you know, our rates have gone up. Is that some of that rate increase being used for infrastructure increases all improvements already? Right? Or is it just energy's more expensive on the open market? Julie's here. Julie, okay. Yeah, we were kind of killing time. Wait, boy.
I apologize, I had some
Julie,
stuff
we
on.
were wanted to, you know, we annually, we got to approve the purchasing policy.
Correct.
But it
Does
wasn't-
anybody need copies? by the way?
It wasn't clear as to, were there any amending of the purchasing policy that we're going to be looking at?
Yes, there's a pretty extensive edition of definitions by the county attorney's office with their review. Other than that, we basically we're recommending increasing the purchase order threshold to $750. And we would like to raise the RFP threshold to 50,000, which currently it's 20,000. Other than that, it was just a lot of housekeeping, adding resolutions that were adopted over the last year, regarding different policies. So those were the major changes.
All right, questions, discussions with Julie over the purchasing policy? Yeah, Supervisor
Really,
Goodall.
good morning. How long has the 20,000 mark been in place?
A long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
So
It was due to be increased, and we're in line with other counties. Their thresholds are $750 for POs and not all of them, but we're not out of line by doing these increases.
Give committee a chance to look through it, Julie, and see if they have any further questions.
Okay.
The professional services will be 25,000,
50.
50,000.
Yeah, and the public works and commodity thresholds are set by law, so those can't be changed yet.
Oh, and I'm on page 11, paragraph 17. Second paragraph, under expenditures and contracts funded by New York State must be in compliance with New York State executive law, where it refers to 25,000 and 100,000 for major repairs, renovations, and so forth.
Right, that's regarding federal grants. New York State and or federal grants. So that is set by law as well, and that's MWBE requirements
Yeah,
and goals that we have to comply with.
okay.
Julie, how many professional services contracts are you gonna be, eliminating from RFPs?
Not many. We'll still be doing a majority of our expenditures with RFPs.
Give an
Well-
example of some that are, in that 20 to 30 range.
There are some planning grants that maybe they'll have like $30,000 to expend on a fairly minor professional service where that would be eliminated. We could still help them with the MWB utilization goals because we do the research for all of those vendors. So it's not going to take us out completely if the departments need help, but it will actually speed up the process because they can just get quotes and request a contract versus waiting the term for an RFP to be done. And we do help them with a scope form. So all the vendors are still getting the same, information to make it fair.
And best value, when we do a best value bid, we have to also submit within the bid, the guidelines that we'll be going to use to evaluate the bids.
Correct, with weighted criteria.
But Supervisor Garachi putting it on the floor, makes the motion, second motion to approve the purchasing policy as submitted here today by Supervisor Thomas. Any further questions, thoughts? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the purchasing policy as proposed, moving this on to the Board of Supervisors, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Julie.
you.
Is there anything else from the committee for the good of the order? On a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Supervisor Conover, second by Supervisor Wild, and have a good day.